High school grads are out of place here. Get out if you understand.
At the new CEO's welcome party, the manager, John, shouted in a resonating voice, "I understand. I'll leave." The moment I said that firmly, a man approached.
Why isn't there a seat for the new manager? Who do you think he is?
What?
When the new CEO appeared, John let out an absurd scream. "My name is Michael Salk. I turned 41 this year. As a child, I lived comfortably with my parents and my brother, who is 10 years younger than me. My dad was a workaholic, often staying overnight at work, but seeing him happily go to work, I must have wondered as a kid. One day, I casually asked my dad, 'What do you do for work?'
Well, I deliver exciting products to everyone.
Awesome. I want to be like you, Dad." I remember having such conversations with my dad when I was little. He was my idol. Going to school, coming home to chat with my mom, and waiting for my dad's return with my brother. Such ordinary days, I thought, would continue forever back then. However, everything changed when I was in my freshman year of high school, as my parents had a car accident. My mom passed away in the hospital she was taken to. Although my dad survived, he was left with a lower body disability and had to quit his job. From then on, my dad started living in a wheelchair, and daily life became difficult. I had to change my path from continuing education to working after high school to support my family.
Michael, don't you want to go to college? You're still a kid. Don't worry about money.
I don't really have anything I want to do right now. I want to support our family, so I'm thinking of getting a job. At that time, I was 18, and my brother was just 7. I took on the role of caring for my dad and worked hard at my job. However, my dad's condition did not improve, and the situation remained critical. I made time to take my brother to visit our dad, but his health continued to deteriorate. A year later, my dad passed away. I held back my tears and stroked my brother's head. Seeing my brother cry, I resolved to protect him. Our grandparents took us in, and we started living together, but I couldn't burden them due to their age. Having managed household chores from a young age, I was more capable of taking care of my brother than other kids my age. Though there was some money left by my parents, as a teenager, I had no idea how much it would cost to raise my young brother. So, I decided to save the inheritance as much as possible and earn my own money for our living. Even after my dad's death, I continued to work at a factory within commuting distance from home, working tirelessly every day. Fortunately, there were others in the company who also had only a high school education background, so I never felt inferior about my educational background. Though I knew nothing at first, my colleagues kindly taught me the work and took good care of us, who were without parents. Gradually, I became capable of handling the work on my own. And as I produced various products, ideas like it would be nice to have such a product, or maybe changing the shape here would make it easier to handle, started popping up in my mind. I would jot these ideas down in a notebook and look back at them, imagining how I would feel if these products actually came to market. The thought of my product reaching someone else always excites me. It was only after I started manufacturing that I truly understood how my father felt. I was able to successfully see my brother through college. As for me, my job got on track, and I have been living a carefree, solitary life, feeling fulfilled without any particular complaints since joining the company. Last year, my work at the factory was recognized, and I was transferred to the headquarters this year. However, at the headquarters, I've encountered my first real challenge in this company.
Hey, are you really a high school graduate?
Yes, I am. That's right. I was assigned to the product planning department at the headquarters. On my first day of work, the man in front of me sighed exaggeratedly.
Ick. A high school graduate. That's just dead weight. What the heck was upper management thinking?
What? Well, I'll work hard.
Yeah. What other? Just don't get in our way? Okay?
Right after arriving at the headquarters, I felt uneasy due to John's dismissive attitude. One afternoon, as I was getting accustomed to the work, I heard a snide voice while I was facing my computer as usual.
Hey, Alex. Haven't you finished the task I gave you yet? Hurry up and get it done.
When I looked up, John was peering over the desk of Alex, a colleague, with a huge sigh. Alex, 10 years younger than me, was my superior. He took the responsibility of training me. Despite the awkwardness of being the older subordinate, Alex talked to me in a friendly manner. Thanks to him, I was able to fit into the department. And because he is the same age as my brother, I felt particularly concerned for him.
But you were the one who suddenly dumped this task on me. Plus, this isn't even my responsibility.
John snorted in disdain at Alex's displeasure. The other employees seemed to sympathize with Alex. I watched as John, seemingly displeased with Alex's response, frowned and slapped his desk.
What? You can't handle such a simple task. Typical of a college dropout. Useless? I made a mistake by relying on you for this job. Huh?
Alex looked puzzled by John's mocking tone. The others were also glancing at them, and I was nervous about the tense atmosphere. Although Alex did not graduate from college and join this company, to me, just entering college is an achievement. But for someone who values academic achievement like John, it seems to be a reason for scorn. The bad vibe between them was getting worse. The other employees were concerned but remained silent, knowing that speaking up could draw John's ire. I was one of them, wondering what to do. Yes, the recent cause of my worry has been none other than John. He graduated from a prestigious national university and is proud of his own grades. Moreover, it seems he is the son of an executive and made a rapid career advancement thanks to that. However, while he seems to be convinced of his own talent, he looked down on others. He clearly flatters those with educational backgrounds equal to or higher than his own. Conversely, he adopts a haughty attitude towards those of us with lower educational qualifications. I hadn't heard good things about him while working in the factory, but meeting John in person was worse than I imagined. John, I just finished my task, so I can help Alex with his work. Unable to bear the hostile atmosphere in the department, I deliberately tried to change the mood by stepping in between John and Alex. However, John frowned even more displeasedly at my intervention.
Huh? From a college dropout to a high school graduate. Isn't that even worse? Don't we have anyone more competent?
Am I not capable enough?
What can a high school graduate like you do when low education people gather? Their capabilities are limited.
I wanted to resolve things peacefully, but it seemed that John really disliked me intervening in the conversation. He pointed at me and continued with his biting remarks. He turned his annoying gaze towards me while twisting his face. The problem with John is his high educational background, which gives him considerable confidence in his own credentials. It would have been fine if it stopped there, but it seems John does not want to acknowledge those with lesser academic qualifications, ignoring anything I say. He assigns unreasonable tasks to employees with lower education or speaks to them confrontationally as he pleases. Of course, being a high school graduate, I was no exception. From the day I joined, it seemed John had decided my rank in his mind upon learning I was a high school graduate.
Alex, just hurry up and finish your work. Michael, you don't have to do anything. There's no job here for someone at the bottom of the ladder in both position and education.
While heading back to my desk, John muttered this loud enough for me to hear. I almost sighed, holding it back and pretending not to hear. I had to focus on my work, or the anger towards John would overwhelm me. Sure, I'm a high school graduate, but John was the first to mock me so openly about it. In this company, since my time in the factory, there has been no distinction based on educational background. We're evaluated on our work and attitude. That's why I was able to be promoted. It's the company's policy. Other employees were also perplexed by John's academic elitism. However, that was only at the beginning. Recently, they have gotten used to his attitude. Engaging with it is just a waste of time. However, the problem is that John behaves the same way towards other employees. I wasn't complexed about my education, but some employees, including Alex, were concerned about theirs. I haven't heard the details, but it seems Alex couldn't go to the university he wanted. Every time John mentioned educational background, he seemed to get depressed. Thus, many employees found it difficult to work or felt mentally strained due to John's remarks. That day, Alex seemed truly lost, ridiculed again for his education. When I invited him to lunch during the break, as expected, Alex looked disheartened. Alex is a straightforward and eager young man. His serious nature seems to cause him such distress. Everyone knows how hard you work, Alex. I might not be much help, but I can at least listen. You can count on me anytime.
Michael, just hearing that from you is a big support. Thank you so much.
Even though he thanked me cheerfully, seeing Alex's drooping figure pained me. He's always hard-working and considerate, clearly a good person. It would be such a waste for someone like him to be ruined by John. John can be confident in his education. He probably worked hard in ways I can't imagine, in university and elsewhere. However, I wish he would stop undermining other employees. I could somewhat understand if he ridiculed people like me who are not very invested in our educational background. But it was utterly unacceptable to belittle the lives of hard-working individuals like Alex by using education as a fault. I clenched my jaw, thinking something must be done about John. Then, one day, it was announced that the current president would retire and his son would take over as the new president. To commemorate the inauguration, a new product was to be created and presented at the inauguration party. The change of president was the second time, and the company was abuzz with this major event. The former president, now the chairman, was also going to attend the party, and the senior management was more enthusiastic than usual. We were informed at a morning meeting that the new product ideas would be solicited from within the company. This selection would be made through a presentation in front of the executives, with the best idea being awarded and actually produced, receiving personal recognition from the new president. My product could actually hit the shelves, something I had never even dreamed of while working in the factory. I felt a step closer to that dream. If I was selected for this event, my career advancement would certainly be fast-tracked. I was greatly excited by such a generous initiative. As I was pondering various ideas in my head, Alex from the next desk spoke to me.
Michael, are you going to apply for the new product selection mentioned in the morning meeting?
I'm not sure. Newbies like me would probably get laughed at if we apply. I vaguely responded in front of other employees. Truthfully, I was eager to participate, but I lacked confidence in my product ideas. Could someone like me really take part in such a major company event? Such negative thoughts dominated my mind. Hearing my response, Alex leaned in eagerly.
You absolutely should apply, Michael.
Alex passionately argued that he originally joined the company out of love for our products and a desire to be involved in product development. He's a man with a passion for the company above most. Alex's encouragement probably stemmed from having seen my notebook full of ideas. Indeed, this event is a great opportunity. I am grateful just to be working at the headquarters, and now to have such a chance. My desire to take on the challenge was mixed with hesitation to make the first step. Perhaps sensing my internal struggle, Alex took my hand and pushed me forward.
You should definitely try, and please let me help if you do.
Alex.
Nobody can come up with dream-filled products like you, Michael. Have more confidence. Let's create something exciting together.
Alex's words struck a chord with me. That's right. I remembered my father's words. For years, I worked tirelessly for my family and brother. I didn't hate it, nor did I regret it. But in doing so, my desire to create products that excite people like my father had been buried deep inside me. Alex's passion surprised and awakened me. Thanks, Alex, I'll apply. That's when I decided to submit my application for the event.
Please let me help too.
Given the event's significance, many were targeting the product for submission. In this context, Alex's genuine desire to contribute to the company was admirable. It was clear he genuinely wanted to support me. Really? How about we propose it together then?
I'm fine with just helping you. I want to support you with all my strength.
Alex shook his head at my suggestion. This submission would be mine alone. He wasn't offering help to claim any credit. He sincerely wanted to back me up. Moved by Alex's earnestness, I felt even more motivated. Thank you. I'll give it my best shot. Alex's eyes sparkled as he extended his hand.
Yes, Michael. Let's give it our all together.
And so, Alex and I decided to apply for the event. The selection was a month away. The chosen employee would be recognized at the new president's inauguration party the following week. In between regular duties, we busied ourselves with preparing the presentation and creating materials for the new product. My work hours were extended due to the increased workload, but I found the experience enjoyable. We exchanged opinions, debating back and forth about what could work and what might not. There were times when I got worried about my stamina due to my age, but I would then think of my father and motivate myself. Most importantly, Alex was always there, working hard beside me. I couldn't afford to give up. Whenever I felt doubtful, thinking, am I good enough? Alex was there to encourage me. Watching him tirelessly work on the materials, rubbing his sleepy eyes, my desire for our product to be on the shelves grew stronger. The employees in our department were all supportive of our efforts. Some even brought us snacks during overtime or offered advice, making me feel the warmth of the people around us. However, not everyone was supportive. Some were clearly envious.
Already useless and now doing unnecessary things. Can't you do something actually useful for the company?
John seemed displeased with Alex and me participating in the event, frequently showering us with his sarcasm. He even increased our workload, seemingly to disrupt our presentation preparations. Despite this, we managed to get by with the help of our colleagues, though it was outrageous to have a superior obstructing a subordinate's work. Regardless of what John did, the enthusiasm Alex and I shared didn't wane. If anything, it fueled our desire to prove him wrong. On the night before the presentation,
Working late, huh? Here's some coffee for you. Good luck tomorrow.
President Ken, thank you.
I'm not the president anymore. I'm the chairman now. But you're applying to, right?
Yes, I plan to.
Well, do your best.
While Alex and I were making final checks at the office, the chairman himself came with coffee. Even then, he visited the company, showing care for us employees, offering drinks even to regular staff who were working late like us. The chairman patted my shoulder with a smile and left the room. The next day, the selection meeting took place. Including me, there were over a dozen applicants. Alex came to support me as an audience member. And surprisingly, John was also present. Feeling a bit nervous under everyone's gaze, I managed to speak confidently without mistakes. The idea notebook I had filled during my factory days was now being shared with others, a profoundly satisfying moment. I was able to convey the full potential of my product to the judges, completing the presentation satisfactorily. But I wasn't the only one who had worked hard. All the employees showed great passion for their projects, making the selection lively and educational. I found myself captivated by the other presenters' products. Finally, the moment of the results announcement arrived, and the judges announced,
"The product to be actually commercialized is the one designed by Michael."
Suddenly, my name was called. For a moment, I was bewildered. Hearing the cheers around me, reality slowly sunk in. My product was going to be on the shelves. Tears naturally flowed as I realized the result of all my efforts.
Michael, congratulations. We did it.
Thank you. It's all thanks to you, Alex. Overwhelmed with joy, I rushed to Alex after the announcement. and we shared a heartfelt embrace. Alex must have been incredibly happy as well. Tears shimmered lightly in her eyes from the joy. Then an unpleasant voice cut through the warm atmosphere from behind.
Humph. Just got lucky, didn't you? Means nothing if it doesn't sell.
Turning around at John's cold voice, we found him with a dissatisfied expression. His voice, dripping with disdain for our efforts, made my brow furrow. Normally, I would let it slide, but the emotions of the moment made it impossible to ignore. Feeling as though our hard work was being negated, I was irate. What did he think of our efforts? What had we ever done to him? Reaching my limit, I faced John and spoke calmly. Perhaps you should have applied, John. This is something Alex and I earned through our abilities, not luck. Seemingly not expecting a retort from me, John was momentarily taken aback by my assertiveness. That makes sense. After all, I had never challenged him before, fearing the deterioration of our relationship. I had always tried to avoid unnecessary conflicts by complying with his demands as much as possible. But this was something I couldn't let go. John quickly regained his composure, clicking his tongue in annoyance.
It doesn't matter if it gets commercialized. It's pointless if it doesn't sell. Hope it doesn't end up a disaster.
He left a parting shot and hastily retreated.
Thank you for standing up, Michael. It's really infuriating. I won't forgive him. And there's no way your product won't sell. I guarantee it.
Thanks, Alex. After John left, Alex grimaced and spoke up. It felt like a dampener on our celebratory day. It was unfair for the day to end on such a sour note. Just as I was about to suggest we go out for a drink to lift our spirits, I heard a voice saying,
Excuse me.
The office door opened with a click. Turning around, I saw the chairman. After scanning the room, he looked at me.
Michael, congratulations today. Do you have a moment?
A week after the presentation, along with the new president's inauguration party, a significant reshuffle was announced. Of course, our department was also affected by the personnel changes. Relations with John had been at their worst since the day of my rebuttal. He seemed particularly offended by my defiance. John began to mock my education more than ever, on top of his usual sarcasm, and escalated his harassment by increasing my workload. I was honestly troubled. I hoped that personnel changes would somehow improve the situation with John. With these thoughts, I headed to the office, as usual, and then dressed up for the party. Each department had designated seating, and the new president's speech was scheduled to begin shortly. I had to step away from my seat for a while due to preparations for the new product announcement. Returning to my seat, I noticed an unsettled atmosphere among my colleagues.
Michael, I'm so sorry. I wasn't watching, and this happened.
Alex, along with other employees, looked anxiously in my direction. Curious, I looked toward my seat and realized my place was the only one without any food prepared. Confused by the situation, I noticed John returning with a sneering smile, holding what appeared to be an empty plate where food once was. Hey, John, what are you doing? I asked him as I approached him quickly and raised my voice. However, He shrugged off my hand and looked at me with his usual smug expression, declaring,
A high school graduate like you doesn't belong here. Got it? Now get out.
His outburst surprised Alex beside me, whose eyes widened. John, seeming pleased with this reaction, confidently pointed at me.
There's no place here for a high school graduate like you. You'll just dumb us down. You're fired.
Noticing his slightly flushed face, I realized he was drunk. His words left me open-mouthed. Not because I took them seriously, but out of astonishment. I doubted John had the authority to fire anyone. He must have been speaking out of momentary emotion, and he was under a significant misapprehension. Understood. I'll leave. As I said that firmly, at that moment, a man approached.
Why is there no seat for the new manager? Who do you think he is?
What?
The commotion had apparently attracted attention. The new president approached, then surveyed the scene, spotting John and finally fixing his gaze on me.
It's been a while, Manager Michael. I was surprised to hear you were being awarded.
It's all thanks to Alex. John was visibly flustered, seeing us talking amicably.
President. But Michael is just a low level.
What are you talking about? This man is the son of the company's founder and the first president.
The new president clarified, causing a ripple of shock among the employees. John gaped in disbelief. Well, the impressive one was my father, not me. I'm just another employee.
But you're a high school graduate. Michael is the chairman's nephew. I didn't know that.
Of course, you didn't. It was a fact known only to a few in the upper management. And obviously, Michael earned this project through his and Alex's combined efforts and skills.
The new president explained as John was left mumbling, dumbfounded. In reality, the company's founder was my late father. After his death, his brother, the current chairman, took over. The new president is the chairman's son, my cousin. When I decided to work after high school, I begged my father to let me work in his company.
All right, I'm proud of my employees. They will surely welcome you.
In exchange for getting the job, I made a promise with my father.
Remember, never reveal you're my son. Succeed on your own merit.
At the time, I didn't fully grasp his words. But now I understand. Being granted status or power without the requisite abilities can lead to arrogance and a forgetfulness to strive. My father didn't want me to become that kind of person. Thanks to this, I was able to climb the ranks on my own merit. Achieving results in the company my father worked for felt incredibly satisfying. The chairman had often suggested I work at the headquarters, but I always declined. I wanted to achieve results based on my own abilities, not through my father's or uncle's influence. With Alex's help, I was able to win an award within the company based on my own merits.
What the heck? How can a low-educated guy like you be above me? That's just not right.
John couldn't believe he was now beneath me in rank. He was shaking, and his lips quivered with agitation. However, Alex raised his eyebrows sternly in response to John.
It doesn't matter who's above or below. What's important is character, something you seem to lack, doesn't it?
The new president continued.
Michael has dedicated himself to this company tirelessly. He is well respected and trusted by his subordinates. Therefore, it has been decided that he will be the new head of the product planning department through this personnel change.
Are you protecting this guy, President? He's just a high school graduate and a disappointment. And I am the head of the product planning department.
You will be moving to the inspection department.
John, unable to accept a personal change, lashed out at the president. He couldn't bear the thought of someone he deemed inferior taking over his position. The inspection department is considered a sideline in our company. A demotion from the fast track.
This is unacceptable. Why me?
I felt the same way. When I first heard about this from the chairman, I thought I had been sincerely dedicated to my work, but never imagined I would be chosen as a manager. While I remained silent, the chairman approached and stood in front of John.
It's because I advised my son to do so. Do you have a problem with that?
The chairman said that as he stood beside the new president.
Michael is my nephew, but unlike you, who abused parental power to oppress others, he achieved this through his own efforts.
As the chairman spoke, John's face turned red with trembling, while Alex turned to me and showed a thankful expression on his face.
No matter what, I intend to follow you, Manager Michael.
His words warmed my heart. The other employees, having witnessed the entire scene, erupted into applause. Throughout my life, I felt I was always the one supporting others. Somehow, I convinced myself that was my role, even in my own life, and had given up on my dreams. Maybe somewhere deep down, I was also concerned about my educational background. But now, being recognized and blessed with warm words, I realized many people have been watching me.
John, even after hearing these voices, do you still think he is not fit to be a manager?
As the new president questioned him, John was left speechless.
Congratulations on your appointment, Michael. I look forward to your future contributions.
With the chairman's voice, the room filled with applause once again. Afterward, John left the company. There was no formal dismissal. It seemed he lost his will to continue after being outranked by someone he deemed inferior. Staying would have only meant facing disdain and discomfort at work. Despite his attempts to find new employment, John's history of looking down on others based on their education led to failed relationships and short-lived jobs. Now, it seems, he is being supported by his parents and has withdrawn to his home. As for me, I was promoted to become a manager and, though busy, am living fulfilling days.
Michael, how about a drink tonight?
Sure, I'm in. Now, I am working diligently with my team, including Alex, to create better products. People to notice your efforts. We are all busy working to introduce our new products to the world. This happiness is not solely my own achievement. Just as how I have been there for others, there are those who have supported me. I aim to continue producing products that excite many people, without arrogance and with humility, in my new role.
I've got pull in HR. The HR director told me I can say anything.
My boss, who is my sister Kate, is supposed to have the title of the Director of Sales Department at headquarters, but it seems like there's some high-level connections going on.
This year's new hire, an Ivy League grad, is really talented. I feel bad for him, but as part of the headquarters staff, I need to turn the sales office around.
What do you mean? With a puzzled look, I faced my sister, who smirked mischievously at me.
Don't get it. This is why high school grads, basically, you, a high school grad, are fired today, replaced by an Ivy League elite rookie. How did you land such a big contract? They even said they'd cancel if you weren't in charge.
Didn't you hand it over to the elite rookie? I asked my sister in a calm voice.
Don't get smart with me just because you're a high school grad. Just get to work now. That's an order from your boss.
My name is Steve Campbell, a corporate employee in my 30s. I've worked at a candy manufacturer, a company everyone knows since childhood, nearing 2 decades now. Currently, I'm busy every day as a mid-level employee at the sales office. It's a small office, but everyone works together in harmony, striving to improve our sales performance. I graduated high school and went straight to work at this candy factory. However, about 10 years ago, I took an internal certification exam to switch to sales because it's what I really wanted to do. Though I completed the training without knowing anything about sales, the people at this sales office taught me everything from scratch. Now, I'm surrounded by reliable bosses, experienced colleagues, and the newcomers I first mentored, enjoying fulfilling days. I have a special connection with a particular candy from our company, which is why I decided to work here. Not being particularly good at studying, I wanted to work immediately after graduating high school, and if I was going to work, it had to be at my favorite candy factory. Both the factory and sales jobs have their challenges, but I find this work rewarding, and above all, I love the products we make. My relationship with this candy goes back a long way to when I was barely aware. I think it was my sister, 4 years my senior, who first gave me this candy. This sweet candy, often served during snack time at home, is a cherished flavor of my childhood, a taste that brings back fond memories. Even now, having experienced many flavors, this one remains special and my favorite. My parents, who knew of my love for this candy, were shocked to see how a simple purchase influenced my future, but there was another reason for their surprise. That's my sister. When I got the job, my sister had already left home for college. The kind sister who used to give me candy had disappeared long ago, and as we grew up, she became critical of everything about me. Complaining about my grades, my looks, it seemed she found fault with everything. If I pushed back even a little, she would come back at me tenfold. That led me to gradually avoid her. At the same time, her relationship with our parents worsened, and she didn't even show up for our father's funeral a few years ago. Even though I had moved out for my job, I returned home worried about my mother being alone. But my sister never contacted us once. On a Monday morning, half asleep, I arrived at work and turned on my PC, fueled by coffee.
Steve, do you know the person coming for the inspection today?
My colleague at the next desk suddenly asked. While checking my emails, I glanced over.
I got a message from a colleague at the headquarters warning me to be careful.
Really? Is this person that intimidating? I didn't even catch the name of who's coming. The notice of today's inspection from headquarters had arrived last Friday. Caught off guard by the sudden notification, I scrambled to prepare the documents, but I hadn't asked who was coming. George, the person coming for the inspection today is. Just as I started to ask my manager, George, the office door flew open.
What's with this messy office? Do you even clean?
Scanning the room, the woman frowned and spat out those words. Dressed in an expensive suit, her flawless makeup added an air of intimidation. I was taken aback by her face.
Hello, Kate. How are you today?
George greeted the person, who happened to be my sister, who I hadn't seen in years. A few years after I joined the factory, my sister, having graduated from university, chose the same candy company for her career. I heard from our parents that she was assigned to the glamorous sales planning department after graduating from a prestigious private university in the city, and was on the fast track to success. Though she hadn't been in touch with the family since then, so I knew nothing of her progress. I had no idea she had climbed up to be a department head at headquarters.
Oh, I thought I recognized a face. Still wearing that tacky suit. Can any client really want to deal with a salesman like you? Maybe try a little harder to improve your sales figures.
While I stood there stunned, insults flew my way, but it didn't stop there. My sister scowled as she glanced at a nearby cabinet.
What's with this document shelf? So, it's like you can't even mess up, right? Maybe you should start over from kindergarten.
The cleanup from last weekend's frantic search for documents hadn't been completed yet. She pointed it out sharply, leaving me without a comeback.
And you?
She looked down at my colleague sitting next to me. You visibly flinched. He was a young man, fresh out of college last year. Like me, he joined the company because he loved candies and was eager to learn as much as possible about his job. A hard worker, earnest in everything he does.
It's fine to love our products, but this isn't your home. Maybe if you didn't eat so much without restraint, you wouldn't have that figure.
She pointed to the candies on his desk. But commenting on someone's body seemed off limits. At her words, he looked down, unable to lift his face. I could stay silent if it were just me, but I couldn't ignore her harsh words towards my colleagues. That's no way to talk.
Huh? Who do you think you're speaking to? A mere factory worker turned employee should know their place.
But I've been working hard every day, and my sales aren't that bad. My sister gave me a cold glance, then flipped through a document nearby.
Your sales figures. Let's see, what's this? Why does it take so long to close the deal?
Which one are you talking about? Peeking over, it seemed she was looking at my sales report.
Why are you dragging your feet instead of sealing the deal? While you're dilly-dallying, remember, the paychecks keep rolling in.
But this was a major contract discussion, so I told them to think it over. As I reminisced about back then, I told her,
Huh? Closing deals is your job, isn't it? Why didn't you just get it done?
Because it seemed like they were still hesitant, and I didn't want them to have regrets later on. The client was new and inexperienced, making it hard for them to make a decision. After internal discussions, they still hesitated to sign the contract. I proposed various options until they were satisfied.
Who cares if the client regrets it later? Unbelievable. That lukewarm sales approach is why you're not making much profit.
But I couldn't agree with my sister's view, but it seemed she couldn't care less about my feelings. Looking around the office, she announced in a voice that carried,
"I've got pull in HR. The HR director told me I can say anything."
My sister is supposed to be the director of sales department at headquarters, but it seems like there's some high-level connections going on.
This year's new hire, an Ivy League grad, is really talented. I feel bad for him, but as part of the headquarters staff, I need to turn the sales office around.
What do you mean? Facing my puzzled look, my sister smirked mischievously.
Don't get it. This is why high school grads, basically, you, a high school grad, are fired today, replaced by an Ivy League elite rookie.
The day after my sister fired me, I took the day off. Technically, it was using up my paid leave. With my departure at the end of the month, I still had quite a bit of leave remaining. After my sister returned to headquarters yesterday, my colleagues crowded around my desk, each trying to persuade me to stay. Thankfully, my colleagues seemed to need me. However, a decision from headquarters isn't easily overturned. Given my sister's character, she's likely to fabricate a legitimate reason to submit for my dismissal. I could protest to headquarters, but I didn't want to fight with my sister anymore. And so, I decided to resign from the company I'd worked at for nearly 20 years. While having lunch with my mother, I absent-mindedly watched TV. I rarely had the chance to watch daytime TV on a weekday, but perhaps I'll have more leisure time like this from now on. I need to start looking for a new job. While idly watching a celebrity fashion showdown, which I had little interest in, my phone rang. It was the sales office. "Hey, it's Steve."
You kept quiet about the Trans Corporation project. What are we going to do now? They're furious.
I was so startled by my sister's shouting that I pulled the phone away from my ear.
How did you end such a big contract? They even said they'd cancel if you weren't in charge.
Didn't you hand it over to the elite rookie? I asked my sister in a calm voice.
Don't get smart with me just because you're a high school grad. Just get to work now. That's an order from your boss.
With that, I reluctantly went to the office. Since I'm still an employee of this company until the end of the month, I had no choice. Plus, if I left things as they were, it seemed like it would cause trouble for everyone at the sales office. Upon arrival, my sister, looking furious, confronted me.
Explain yourself.
Regarding Trans Corporation, I started to recount from memory. Trans Corporation was the client my sister had criticized for my lukewarm sales. The young representative back then, after much deliberation, landed a major contract, but later on, he reached out wanting to discuss a new project with the boss present. He was touched by the personal attention I gave, and it seemed the word had spread within his company. I was honestly pleased that they appreciated my approach as a salesperson. However, the project they brought was unlike anything I had seen in my sales career, with staggering figures. I double-checked numerous times, but they insisted on proceeding because of their trust in me. Eventually, I had my supervisor sit in, and we closed the deal. Unaware of the situation, my sister apparently tried to extend her greetings for the change in contact, only to be turned away. But I'm resigning, and I don't think there's anything more I can do.
Don't pass the buck. Don't you feel bad for the people you're leaving behind? This jerk.
Jerk. At that, it was my turn to frown.
What? Got something to say?
I just didn't expect to be called jerk by you, of all people. I retorted with anger in my voice.
What? You want to talk back to me? Feeling all high and mighty now, huh?
Do you think they's a bigger jerk than a daughter who doesn't show up to her own father's funeral? My sister gasped, her expression turning to one of hesitation. I don't mind if you hate me, but Dad and Mom have always been worried sick about you, Kate. Why won't you just give them a call? Enough with dragging out this rebellious phase already. You're the jerk here, aren't you?
What? What could you possibly understand?
My words made her scream out, sounding like a banshee.
Ever since we were little, you were the darling, always praised for being so kind and good, despite hardly ever cracking a book.
That's a whole different issue, isn't it?
It matters. I mean, I worked hard. Always top grades, awards, went to a good university.
Compared to my accomplished sister, my grades were nowhere near. I've never been awarded anything. That's right. You've always been outstanding.
Yeah, that's right. I worked hard for it. I was supposed to be Mom and Dad's pride and joy. They used to say to me that I was doing great.
Our parents were always so gentle, so while I remember being praised, I hardly recall being scolded.
But they used to say the same thing to you, you know, that you were great, being so kind to people.
Those words made me realize something. Indeed, our parents never scolded me for my grades. They were the type to praise me for helping the elderly neighbors or returning lost items.
Why do you get treated as equal or even better than me when I'm the one busting my ass? You just laugh it off, don't even bother working hard, and still manage to get a job with just a high school diploma.
My sister was furious, but not with the usual condescension or intimidation. Instead, she seemed almost in pain.
They told you, someone who's basically a loser, that it was a job celebration, and suggested going on a trip together. But when I got into university after studying my butt off, all they said was congratulations.
I was never scolded, not even for my poor academic performance. Being kind to others was always seen as a virtue. I've been living carefree, oblivious to the hard work behind my outstanding sister's shadow. It's the first time I've heard about her feelings like this.
That's why I've always hated you. Being doted on by our parents, acting as if you know nothing.
Kate. She sighed heavily after saying that. Now, I understood why my sister hated me, why she became distant from our parents. She unleashed her rage and then stared at me in a daze, with a quiet gaze.
When I got the job, did Dad and Mom say anything?
She asked quietly, as if a weight had been lifted from her. They were surprised, you know, finding out we're siblings working at the same company. But they mentioned it was your idea to buy those snacks.
Me.
That's what Mom had told me. When my sister was little, she was the one who wanted to buy that snack at the supermarket. She was so happy with the pink package, hugging it all the way home. Mom said she keeps buying it because it reminds her of that day. The first time I ate it was because you gave it to me. I wondered if she remembered that she had said it's really good, handing it to a younger me. Mom still buys that snack. I'm not a kid anymore, but she talks about the first time she bought it with you.
Mom remembered.
Dad, too. Whenever a new product comes out, he checks if it's something you designed, something I helped make in the factory.
Dad.
My sister choked up, looking down. When sorting through Dad's things, I found lots of drawings and letters you gave him back when you were a kid, and all your awards were kept safe. My sister's eyes widened in disbelief.
No way. I thought I had torn all those up when I left home.
So that's why they were all taped together. I wondered why. Dad must have found them and kept them. Dad was always quiet, but worried about my sister. I felt it too, as her brother.
It might be too late to say this now, but why didn't I say goodbye to Dad?
Sobbing, my sister collapsed to her knees.
I'm sorry, Dad, Mom.
Watching my sister sob like a child, I found myself deep in thought. Maybe if we had clashed like this when we were kids, we wouldn't have drifted apart like we did. But Dad's gone now. That regret will likely never fade. My sister has to live with that regret. She's faced with how to live on, alongside her mistakes. It's not all too late. There must be something she can still make right. And thus, my resignation was as if it never happened. The promising newcomer was quickly sent back to the headquarters, and peace returned to the sales office. My colleagues were happy, and though I had accepted my resignation, I too felt relieved. First thing, I went to apologize to Trans Corporation. I had dragged them into a matter that affected the company's reputation. I was ready to accept it if they decided to terminate the contract, but to my gratitude, they said, "We trust you, Steve." I renewed my determination to live up to that trust through my work. Meanwhile, my sister was apologizing everywhere, working hard to reverse my firing. This would surely shake the trust she had from higher-ups. It must affect her future promotions. But she had made that decision herself. And then she apologized to me.
I'm sorry for everything. It might not be something you can forgive just because I apologize, but I truly did find you adorable when you were toddling behind me.
It's hard to stay mad when you put it like that. It's kinda unfair bringing up stuff from when I don't remember, or so I grimaced.
Well, you weren't cute at all when you grew up. Your fashion sense was awful.
Do you really mean to apologize? Seems like I won't be winning any arguments with her anytime soon. On a pleasant, sunny day, as I was cleaning the yard, the doorbell rang. The unexpected visitor seemed to surprise Mom.
I'm sorry for being late. Can I offer flowers for Dad?
Yes, of course. Have you been well?
Amidst the awkward conversation between parent and child, I stepped in. Let's not stand here, come in. Once inside, my sister first took her time to offer her prayers to Dad's photograph, then apologized to Mom. Their conversation was stiff at first, but given the years of unspoken words, it was dark outside before we knew it. As Mom mentioned she was getting hungry, my sister offered some snacks she had brought. Eating snacks with my sister, how many years has it been?
Want some, Steve? These are really good.
She held out the packet of snacks to me. Caught off guard by the naturalness of it all, I was speechless, staring at my sister. It was like a flashback to our childhood.
Something wrong.
Seeing me freeze, she tilted her head. No, just reminded of the past. The way my sister looked at me now was as gentle as when she first gave me those snacks. A wave of nostalgia overwhelmed me. My childhood memories. My sister and the taste of sweet snacks. To think I'd get to experience this again. Dad's photo on the altar seemed to smile back at us.
The muddy farmers will be cleansed with water.
For a moment, I had no idea what was happening. Suddenly, I found myself soaked from head to toe as the woman in front of me dumped water over me. Wiping away the droplets dripping from my head, I gazed at the woman before me. And who might you be? Well, it doesn't really matter. You'll be held accountable for what you've done. I grinned there and delivered my ultimatum, making each word clear. Tell the president to cancel the $100 million deal.
What?
Not knowing that I was the CEO of the business partner, she threw water on my head. A deal? No way. My name is Cheryl Burt. I'm a 39-year-old running a company. Being called the CEO at this age usually surprises people at first, then they assume I inherited my parents' company. But I don't know if it's appropriate to say this, but I'm a self-made CEO. It all goes back to my days as a student. I loved clothes, so I attended a fashion school. I couldn't resist the fun of making clothes, so I ended up wearing the ones I designed and made myself every day. But just doing that wasn't enough to contain my interest, so I eventually started making my own underwear too. I couldn't be satisfied with store-bought underwear. I wanted underwear that would make me happier. I started making underwear that I thought was cute and posting it on social media. Luckily, it caught the attention of Korean pop stars. I suddenly received a message from a celebrity, and I was so shocked that I was speechless. I was delighted when people, using awkward English, praised the clothes I, an amateur, had made as cute. Where can I buy them? And awesome. Being honest, I replied, "Thank you, but these aren't for sale. They're just my hobby handmade creations." She was surprised to learn that I was still a student, and she wanted to buy some sample products. Feeling touched by her request, I designed underwear for her based on the measurements she had publicly shared. I attached a note saying that since it was a sample, I couldn't accept any money and sent it to her office. This action caused quite a stir. She wore the underwear and uploaded it to her social media, calling it super cute. In return for me, she posted a link to my social media site saying, "Super cute is here." People who saw her social media started flooding in with messages like, "I want one too. Where can I buy them?" And "So cute." My notifications kept buzzing for days. I was flustered by the sheer number of comments, so I hurriedly commented, "I'm still a student, and these underwear are all handmade. I'm sorry, but they're not for sale." Then someone appeared saying they would love to manufacture and sell them. That person turned out to be Hillary, who would later support me wholeheartedly.
"Leave the manufacturing and sales to me. Let's deliver cute underwear to everyone."
Encouraging me when I lacked confidence, she gave me the push I needed to take a step forward. Before I knew it, despite still being a student, I became a designer for that company. Gradually, I was given a decent position within the company, but with that came a loss of freedom. I wanted to create cute according to my own standards. When I turned 30, I finally decided to start my own company. When I told Hillary that, she cheerfully supported me.
I'm looking forward to seeing the amazing creations you'll come up with. I'll be cheering you on.
So, with just a few employees who loved me and my designs, I started a small company. Thanks to the visibility on social media, work never stopped coming in. Now, that company has grown into a decent-sized enterprise, and I've become the CEO of an apparel company with many designers and employees. And this year, to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the company's founding, I decided to launch a new brand that designs not only underwear but also cute clothes for the entire body. However, it seems difficult for the company that usually manufactures underwear to handle additional production, so I had to outsource the sewing of clothes to a new external company. Considering the global expansion, it's a large-scale project totaling $100 million. I can't leave it to just anyone. There's also the matter of assessing the prospective company. That's why I decided to visit them in person. However, I never expected to experience such a thing at that company. But to be honest, there were already some unpleasant incidents from the beginning. It was pouring rain on the day of the meeting. Since I happened to have something nearby, I decided to walk to the prospective company from there. As I was shaking off the raindrops from my umbrella at the entrance of the prospective company, a woman rushed over from outside. The entrance was wet from the rain, and I wondered if it might be slippery. As expected, the woman slipped right in front of me. At that moment, to my surprise, she fell towards me, then cleverly climbed on top of me, using me as a cushion to avoid the fall herself. "Whoa, what are you doing? It's dangerous." Ignoring my grimace of pain from hitting my lower back, the woman retorted,
"What's with that face? It's your fault for being there, isn't it? You're blocking the entrance. Because of you, I had such a terrible experience."
Leaving me stunned, she didn't bother to apologize or help me up. Before me, taken aback by her attitude, a hand was extended. It was a man who had been cleaning the floor who helped me up.
Are you okay? Geez, what a woman. You've had a rough time, haven't you?
"Thank you." Struggling to get up, my skirt was soaked and covered in mud. With a meeting with a business partner ahead, I couldn't even sit like this. Feeling at a loss, a man offered me his unused work clothes.
"I'm sorry, I couldn't prepare other clothes for you. I'll show you to a place where you can change."
The receptionist, who had been watching the commotion from inside, also spoke up. I explained that I had come here for a business meeting with the president and asked her to inform the president that I would be a little late due to the mishap. Thomas, the president of the company I was going to negotiate with, kindly agreed to change the time.
Our employee has been very rude. We'll send someone to bring you the change of clothes. You can discuss matters even in work clothes if necessary.
The receptionist guided me to the executive office, where I waited for Thomas. I was rubbing my sore lower back in my borrowed work clothes when I suddenly opened the door with a loud noise and a woman entered the room. To my surprise, it was the same woman who had just moments ago used me as a cushion.
"Could you leave today's negotiation to me?"
She shouted loudly, but upon realizing the president wasn't there, she shifted her gaze towards me. She scrutinized me in my work attire and sniffed disdainfully.
Who are you? This is the executive office. It's not a place for a dirty-looking person like you. You're sneaking into here and skipping work.
Unbelievably, she seemed to not remember that she had just pushed me down and used me as a cushion. Infuriated by her incredibly rude attitude, I was about to retort. But she didn't give me a chance and continued to berate me.
How old are you? You're supposed to be above me, right? Working in those work clothes. You're pathetic. I'm Tara, the department head here. I'm not supposed to even talk to losers like you. I'm a winner, so naturally we shouldn't even be having a conversation.
Just as I was saying, just as I tried to explain, Tara, the department head, screamed.
Hey, your hands are covered in mud like a farmer's. You're making this room smell like dirt.
With those words, Tara swiftly reached for the pitcher placed in front of me.
The muddy farmers will be cleansed with water.
With a splash, cold water came pouring down from above. For a moment, I didn't understand what was happening. Suddenly, the woman in front of me poured water over my head. I was left standing there dumbfounded by the unexpected turn of events. However, Tara, instead of apologizing to me, flashed a mocking smile and made a shooing motion as if to drive away a dog.
What are you doing? Get out of here. This isn't a place for someone like you.
Actually, it was Hillary, the president, who introduced me to this company. I had consulted her about wanting to learn about a company with excellent sewing techniques, and she had introduced me to this company.
If it's sewing, this place is the best. But there are also some bad rumors. I don't know if they are true, but there's apparently a woman named Tara there who's really something.
The president of this company, Thomas, is a close confidant of Hillary and a truly wonderful person who loves clothes. However, it seems that the problem lies with his younger brother, the vice president. He let his doted-upon daughter join the company on nepotism grounds, and despite having no achievements for several years, she was suddenly promoted to an executive position. When the president expressed his concern, the retired chairman intervened, saying, "Well, she's your dear niece, isn't she?" As a result, Tara, a 33-year-old department head with nothing but pride and incompetence, took the position. Since Hillary assured me that aside from the vice president and Tara, there were no issues and that the sewing was outstanding, I decided to visit the company myself to assess the situation, and I'm glad I did. As a result, I experienced firsthand that this company is run by some truly outrageous individuals in executive positions. No matter how good the sewing may be, this company's promotional project is like my own child. I can't entrust it to an untrustworthy party. Wiping away the droplets dripping from my head, I gazed at the woman in front of me. I had already made up my mind. And who might you be? Well, it doesn't really matter. You'll be held accountable for what you've done. With a smile on my face, I delivered my ultimatum, punctuating each word carefully. Tell the chairman to cancel the $100 million deal.
What?
The woman widened her eyes, her mouth gaping in astonishment. She seemed to not fully comprehend what was being said. But she had just poured water over my head, not realizing that I was the CEO of the client company who had come for a major business deal. Does she really think she can proceed with the deal as if nothing happened? This is no joke. Just as she had done to me earlier, I firmly pushed her away with one hand as I spoke. Come on, just go away. I don't want to waste my time on you. Slowly but surely, It seemed that even this dense department head, Tara, was starting to grasp the situation. From her arrogant attitude just moments ago, it was evident that she was now showing signs of panic.
Wait, what are you talking about? Wait a minute, a $100 million deal? Could it be you? You're from the company celebrating its 10th anniversary, aren't you?
Well, apart from us, are there any other $100 million deals out there? I spoke to Tara, who was hastily blocking the exit upon realizing I was the business partner, in a cold tone. Could you move aside? You're blocking the exit. I had a terrible time today because of some ignorant woman. Thanks to her, my suit is ruined. Tara seemed to realize that my words were directed towards the woman who had been pinned down outside, echoing what she had said earlier. Her eyes widened in realization.
No way, you're that person from earlier. You must be kidding.
Remember now, earlier you pinned me down. Thanks for that. These work clothes were lent to me by a kind employee after I got soaked and covered in mud. You left without even apologizing and insulted me, I added in a low voice. So it's your fault I'm in this work clothes. After contacting President Thomas and explaining the situation, he said it was okay to discuss matters even in this attire. That's why I was guided here. After finishing my explanation, I took out my business card, placed it on the table slowly, and showed it to her. Well, we probably won't meet again. I'm Cheryl Burt, the CEO. I don't intend to collaborate with you, so I don't need your business card. With that said, I pointed to the door and shouted at her. Come on, take that and report to the president. Let him know the $100 million deal is off because of me. Tara, trembling hands, turned pale, her face going beyond pale to ashen. Her gaze shifted back and forth between the business card and me, as if she were a broken doll. It's too late to cry over spilled milk. It's because of looking down on people just because they're wearing work clothes that this happened in the first place. No, there's no distinction of honor or disgrace in occupation. This is a result of her ridiculous pretense and prejudice. I snored in contempt. It wasn't a lie, was it? Well then, I'll excuse myself from the pitiful loser. Saying that, as I try to walk past Tara, she desperately clings to me.
Wait, please. That wasn't my intention. It wasn't. I was in a hurry to wrap up the negotiations with you, but then you got in the way.
Me? She retorted impatiently when I glared at her.
No, it was me. I accidentally bumped into you. It wasn't intentional. If I had known it was you, I wouldn't have done that. I'm sorry, please forgive me.
What is she saying? Even if the other person is in a different position, it's not excusable. First of all, my negotiation partner is President Thomas. You had nothing to do with it in the first place. Do you really think someone like you can replace the president? Don't underestimate our deal, okay? Let go. I'll call security. In response to my brusque attitude, Tara finally clings to my legs. Disheveled hair, she doesn't even seem to have the composure to care about her own face anymore.
Don't go, please. It's just that I didn't know it was you. I'll apologize, so please just stay quiet.
Perhaps thinking that apologizing to me won't change the situation, she even goes so far as to say such things.
You'd be in trouble too if the deal fell through, right? You won't find anyone willing to take on such a big deal at this point. If you stay quiet about this, I'll thank you personally later. How much do you want? I can make it all pocket change.
I was infuriated by her audacity. What a despicable person. I've had enough. Are you trying to bribe me? Cut it out. I couldn't help but raise my voice.
What's going on here?
Did my angry voice echo through the hallway? With a voice tinged with panic, a man hurriedly entered the room. He looked momentarily shocked as he saw me, with my fierce expression and Tara desperately clinging to my legs. However, he quickly realized that Tara must have done something wrong. He scolded her sternly.
Anyway, Tara, get up from there.
He urged the man who seemed to be his secretary from behind to take Tara out of the room. Tara was lifted up by the arms and forcibly taken out.
Wait, hey, please listen to me. It's not my fault. I didn't know. Please listen.
Shouts like a mad person echoed from the hallway. The man frowned at this, shook his head slightly, and sighed.
I apologize for the disturbance.
I could only manage a wry smile. There are no words to describe such disgrace. He deeply apologized to me.
I apologize for causing you so much trouble. That person is a relative of mine. I am embarrassed to have shown you such a shameful sight. I am Thomas, the president with whom you made the appointment today. May I ask what happened?
I told President Thomas everything that had happened exactly as it occurred. And I conveyed to him the decision to terminate the deal. In light of these events, we will terminate the deal. I have heard from Hillary that your company's sewing technology is excellent. But I'm sorry, I don't want to do business with a company that would appoint someone like that to the executive position. Thomas sighed and smiled bitterly as he told me,
I understand what you're saying. From here on, then, let's talk in private.
And he relaxed his shoulders. And I wonder if he meant it as an apology to me. He told me the inside story.
I've had my own troubles with my niece. She's the chairman's only granddaughter, so he spoils her rotten.
Thomas apparently has trouble with her, too. After taking a deep breath as if to change his mindset, he made a clear statement with a somewhat relieved expression.
I've made up my mind about this. I'll hold the vice president and Tara accountable. I won't involve the chairman. It's unfortunate that this has involved family matters.
I'm sorry to hear that things turned out this way. And so, the major deal fell through. Since then, I've heard from Thomas about what happened to Tara, the vice president who is her father, and the chairman who had encouraged her arrogance. As a result of this incident, the president conducted a thorough internal investigation without listening to any rebuttals from the chairman or vice president. It was confirmed that both the vice president and Tara had been displaying outrageous behavior towards employees. Not only were they regularly using abusive language, but the vice president and Tara demoted employees they didn't like. Because of this, talented employees were either sent to rural areas or left their jobs after giving up on the company.
I demoted them to a local subsidiary as contract employees. That subsidiary was where they sent employees they didn't like. From now on, the demoted employees will train Tara and the former vice president as their bosses.
Ironically, from now on, they will be used and manipulated by those they have belittled and scorned, who will resent and despise them. It's not hard to imagine what their daily lives will be like. I couldn't help but laugh. It's about time they took responsibility for what they've done. With a smirk in his voice, Thomas continued.
Well, in their case, that alone isn't nearly enough as an act of atonement. It's widely known among the employees. After they return home, their lives won't have a moment's peace. It's what they deserve.
It seems they're reaching out to the employees who were treated unfairly, ensuring their return to work, among other things. Despite the ordeal, I'm glad justice was served thanks to me. And the chairperson, who was spoiling his granddaughter Tara, was also punished in his own way. Thomas chuckled as he continued.
With Tara and the vice president's misdeeds exposed, the chairman, who had favored them, was also held accountable. It's only natural. Despite having retired, he kept meddling in things at his granddaughter's behest. Losing his power within the company, he chose to retreat to the countryside as if running away.
Thomas's laughter was bright. I'll have a chance to work with him when the problems go away and the company atmosphere improves. Later, I reported the whole incident to Hillary, who had introduced me to Thomas's company, and apologized for wasting his introduction.
I didn't think it was that bad. I'm sorry for causing you trouble, and I feel bad for you.
Hillary apologized to me as well, so I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. A few days later,
Well, this won't make up for it, but
Thomas said, and then he introduced me to a rival company that was confident in sewing. The atmosphere there was friendly and the negotiations went smoothly. I was able to make a satisfactory deal. Despite everything that happened, thanks to Thomas, I was able to establish a new and wonderful connection, so I'm grateful to him. And there was another incredibly happy event that I couldn't handle alone. Actually, with the connection Thomas introduced me to, there was an unexpected twist. The person in charge of the business was a man of the same age as me. He originally worked as a fashion designer but became interested in materials and ended up working for a sewing and manufacturing company. His knowledge extended to using new materials and unconventional weaving techniques. We hit it off immediately and he proposed, let's develop a fabric that's fitting for the 10th anniversary commemoration. I readily agreed. We exchanged ideas, brainstormed together, and created a glossy fabric with colors exactly as we envisioned. This material will become the face of my brand. And through our many discussions, a new bond was formed between us. He and I got married. After the 10th anniversary celebration, we immediately moved to the adjacent venue and held our wedding ceremony. The wedding dress, made from the new material developed by him and me, was handmade by him. It's the best. Of course, Hillary, who introduced us, and even Thomas, who had brought such misery on that worst day, were invited to the ceremony. Who would have imagined that such happiness would come from that terrible day? All's well that ends. This couldn't be a perfect ending.
Orphan poor folks, head on home, ho.
At those words, I stood up. So did Alice, as I looked at her.
Seems like this was a waste of time.
I heard her mutter softly. It appears I wasn't the only one who caught that. I saw Kevin slightly shrug his shoulders. While internally smirking, I was about to leave, but then I stopped and turned back. I'm closing my account, you know. At that, George looked baffled, going, huh? Without responding to him, I decided to leave with Alice. Once outside, I immediately called my secretary. Have you got the time now? Actually, I want to close my current bank account and switch to a different bank. I started the process of account closure right away.
Wait a minute.
Just as I was about to get in the car, Thinking all was done, George came running over in a panic. I stopped and turned around.
What on earth did you do?
Before me, Alice spoke up. I'm Mike, 41 years old bachelor running a few restaurants. I've always disliked lounging in the executive office, preferring to stand in the shop between work. It all started with the cafe my parents left me. Small as it was a cafe beloved by many regulars.
How can I make coffee like you used to, Dad?
Well, you've got the basics down. Now you just need that practice makes perfect.
I loved the coffee my dad made, always heading straight to the cafe after school. By the time I was in high school, I was working there as a part-timer. I learned daily about brewing coffee and making snacks. Those days felt genuinely happy. But that all came to an abrupt end in my third year of high school.
What? Why did this happen to Mom and Dad?
Leaving the shop to me and the employees, my parents went out to buy supplies. They had just informed me they managed to buy the coffee beans they wanted. Their car was hit by a drunk driver, losing control and crashing. Trapped between a utility pole and the colliding vehicle, my parents were gone.
Mike, where are Mom and Dad?
They've gone to a faraway place.
Alice, only 5 at the time, couldn't grasp what happened to our parents. At a loss for words, all I could do was hold her. From there, my life took a drastic turn. Our parents were only children themselves, with no other relatives to turn to, and the grandparents who took us in were already up in years.
Alice, I'll protect you.
Therefore, I gave up going to college to raise Alice. Fortunately, people around me sympathized and helped me out. My grandfather took over the cafe management until I became an adult, keeping the shop for us. The regulars who taught me how to manage it. The college students who tutored me between shifts at the cafe. And the ladies who looked after Alice. With their help, I managed to keep both the precious shop and Alice.
Mike, you've got talent, so give it a try.
Then I got to manage the stores of those men who were regulars of my shop, and before I knew it, I had become the owner of several eateries. Thanks to this, I could afford to send Alice to college, which I'm truly grateful for. And remembering that gratitude, I worked hard every day.
Oh, Mike's at the shop today?
Yes, so I'll brew you an exceptional cup of coffee. One day, I responded with a smile to a regular who noticed and spoke to me while I prepared coffee.
By the way, how's your sister doing?
Currently, I've entrusted one of the shops to Alice. She's well acquainted with it from hanging around there since she was young and has smoothly managed it after studying business in college. When I shared this, he asked, "Does she have someone special?" Indeed, Alice has no boyfriend, let alone any male company. She's kind and beautiful like our mother, and while she's not without admirers, she once said she was too happy with her work to care. Nevertheless, I wish for Alice's happiness too.
Actually, I know a guy her age.
He's a competent banker, but due to his quiet nature, he's single. Alice prefers quiet over loud people, so it seemed like a good match. Therefore, I contacted Alice during my break. Well, it's a good opportunity, so I'd like to meet him, she replied, so I agreed to arrange a meeting. The regular was pleased when I told him.
But I should mention something.
He then started to speak seriously. It seems the guy's parents are somewhat problematic. His father is the head of a bank, known for being quite stubborn. His mother, too, enjoys looking down on others from behind his shadow. You should have told me sooner. Hearing this, I began to wonder if I should call it off, which must have shown on my face.
Well, it's just a rumor. Don't worry about it.
He said this with a laugh, but it's hard not to be concerned. I might as well check it out. Muttering to myself, I decided to ask a detective friend to investigate. I then informed Alice about the rumor. I see. Well, I'll meet them and see what they're like, she decided. So we're going ahead with the meeting. It's about time. Alice is considering marriage. I murmured, reminiscing about the past. Alice clung to me a lot as a child, perhaps because of our parents' absence. She had hardly any rebellious phase, always wanting to help with my work, growing up to be a caring sister. I guess I'm getting old. Reflecting on this made me feel somewhat warm inside, pondering the swiftly passing years alone.
Hi, how are you, Mike?
Hi, fine. How are you, Sarah? When I showed up at the cafe today, I was greeted by the shop manager, Sarah. I have immense trust in Sarah, who has been working here since the old days.
I heard about it. Alice has a matchmaking meeting coming up, right?
Sarah asked with a curious look. I just chuckled and nodded in response. Yeah, that's right.
Alice is finally getting married. I guess I'm getting old too.
She mused, to which I replied, she's not married yet, and shared that I had been thinking the same thing yesterday. That made her giggle.
We really are alike, aren't we?
Speaking of which, do you have someone special, Sarah?
Not at all. My love is this cafe.
Like me, she's single and without a partner. Though not much different in age from me, her youthful appearance could attract many.
I wonder what Alice's partner is like. Tell me more about him later.
Sarah and Alice are close like sisters, sharing similar interests, and often going out together on holidays. About that, it seems her parents might be a bit troublesome. I mentioned sharing the rumors. Sarah looked concerned.
Is everything going to be okay?
For now, I've asked someone to look into it.
You always act fast.
As we were talking, the cafe door opened. As I glanced while greeting, there stood a guy in his 20s. I thought he was a new customer, but something about him was familiar, so I observed him discreetly.
Excuse me for interrupting. Have you been working here for a long time?
Yes, quite a while.
Did you used to feed a school-age child here?
Puzzled internally, I nodded, remembering the cafe's long history of welcoming children. The man said, I thought so, and looked at me.
I was taken care of here in the past.
I looked at him intently, recalling a schoolboy from many years ago who resembled him. Could you be Kevin?
Yes, that's me. Thank you for back then.
He replied with a slight smile. After having his coffee without much conversation, Kevin soon left.
I think I've seen that guy at the bank before.
Sarah remarked. Banker, and about the same age as Alice. I thought, realizing the connection to Alice's potential match. Could it be?
What's wrong?
Oh, nothing. I shook my head, deciding it was time to focus on work. Better to leave the thinking for later. All right, back to work. I'm counting on you, boss.
Hey, don't tease me.
Then we both resumed our work with a smile. A few days later, the day of the matchmaking meeting finally arrived. I can't believe the venue is here.
It must be a coincidence, but it feels like fate.
The venue was a well-known restaurant I frequented. Next to me, Alice was sporting a similar expression. We were shown into the room, and after a while, the other party came over saying, sorry for the wait. The first to enter was Kevin. Seeing him, I thought, so it was him. He greeted us with a nod. Next to him, A man looking like his father scrutinized me, making me feel uneasy. Then the meeting began.
This is my father, George.
The man introduced by Kevin was probably the infamous stubborn dad. The stern-looking man next to him.
Pardon me, but you seem young to be a father.
He suddenly remarked, "No, I'm Mike, her brother. Pleased to meet you today." I replied with a polite nod, while thinking that I intended to greet properly without even needing to be asked. Our parents passed away when my sister was young.
What? An orphan?
George exclaimed, surprised by my words. I closed my mouth, taken aback.
A pauper without parents is no match for my son.
No, we're not poor. It's just that.
So think a penniless orphan would match with our family of bankers.
I tried to counter, but he wouldn't listen, exemplifying his reputation as a stubborn father.
Dad, stop it.
Keep quiet.
Kevin tried to intervene, but was ignored. Glancing at his mother, she too had a disdainful look, silently judging us. I didn't want Alice to be part of such a family. As I turned to Alice, she was intently staring at them. Just as I was about to ask her what's wrong, the final straw came.
Orphan poor folks should just go home.
At that, I stood up, and Alice did the same.
It seems like a waste of time, then.
And I could hear the slight tremble in her voice. Sharing our sentiment, Kevin slightly shrugged his shoulders. I was about to leave but stopped and turned back. I'll be closing my account, then. At this, George was bewildered, uttering "huh." Without further response, I decided to leave with Alice. Outside, I immediately called my secretary. "Have you got the time now? Actually, I want to close my current bank account and switch to a different bank." I immediately started the process of closing the account. After finishing the call with my secretary, I turned around to see Kevin. Talking to Alice. Noticing my gaze, he showed his expression apologetically.
Are you done talking? All right, let's head home, Mike.
Suggested with a smile. We started walking.
Hold on a moment.
Just as I was about to get into the car, thinking all was settled, George rushed over in a panic. I paused and turned back.
What have you done?
George, shouting like that. It seems like they moved quickly. Given the speed, it must have been others who acted while talking. I felt a sense of pride in my team's efficiency.
I got a call that an $800 million account was closed. Who exactly are you?
Before I could answer, Alice spoke up.
You don't know? He's a successful entrepreneur who manages several restaurants.
While I thought calling me successful was a bit much, I looked at George's face. He was staring at me in disbelief.
It's true, so it got closed, right? Let's go back now.
Pulling my arm towards the car, George's expression changed dramatically.
I apologize. Please reconsider. If the account stays closed, our bank will.
Ignoring his plea, we quickly got into the car and left. We went home first, changed, and then headed to the cafe.
Oh, what brings you two here today?
Sarah probably didn't expect us to come today. She seemed surprised to see us. We ordered coffee from her and took a moment to relax. Shortly after, Kevin arrived, saying sorry for being late. He stepped close to us, apologizing profoundly. "I'm sorry for my father's behavior." Alice looked at him with a mix of disbelief and annoyance.
That was really rude. How long will you let your father have his way? You need to stand up for yourself.
When Alice spoke, Kevin apologized again. It turns out Alice and Kevin went to the same elementary school. Kevin could come to this cafe back then because Alice brought him here.
I'm sorry for causing trouble, both in my school days and now.
His parents had remarried, and that woman wasn't his biological mother. George was always focused on work, neglecting his family. Kevin's real mother had left him with his father and moved out. Because he never paid attention to his family, Kevin couldn't even have proper meals. That's why Alice, feeling sorry for him, brought him along.
After that, we moved, and I couldn't even say thank you. And now I've troubled you again.
Apologizing repeatedly and sharing his story, he had finally confronted his father, declaring an end to their relationship.
You did well.
Despite saying so, Alice had a worried look on her face. To which he replied, "Don't worry.
I'll become a man you can be proud of this time for sure."
A few days later, I visited the restaurant again. I wanted to apologize for the inconvenience caused that day. I'm really sorry, especially since you prepared the meal.
Don't worry about it.
While we were talking, George suddenly appeared. Why was he here? Seeing my puzzled look, he made an awkward face.
Why are you here?
This is one of my restaurants. I heard him mutter, so I replied, and he made a face like he'd bitten into a sour apple. After a moment of silence, he suddenly apologized. "I'm sorry for the other day." I was taken aback by his sudden apology. Seeing his remorseful appearance, the intimidating air he had that day was gone. "Would you like to talk for a bit?" Curious about his change, we moved to a private room to talk.
After that incident, I was dismissed as the president.
It seems the bank was in chaos over the $800 million closure, and he was fired as a consequence. To be honest, I knew about this. His dismissal was part of the conditions to stop the account closure.
After being fired, no one was waiting for me at home.
Neither Kevin nor his wife were there. Apparently, she was only interested in his title as president, leaving a note and divorce papers saying, "I have no use for you now that you're no longer president." He had time to reflect on his actions, realizing he had done nothing for his family, and that's why no one helped him when he was in trouble. Indeed, your current situation is the result of your own actions. If you had listened to Kevin when he was younger, things might have been different. If he had paid attention to Kevin's words and helped him, maybe Kevin would have been willing to help his father now. Kevin became reserved because George, his father, always dismissed his words, leading him to believe tacking was futile. You still have time. Please think things over carefully. With that, he looked down, lost in thought, and I left the private room. George might not be a bad person at heart. Investigations revealed he was a diligent individual. His reluctance to marry his son to a poor person was likely out of a desire to prevent Kevin from struggling. But his actions were misguided and needed to be addressed.
So what happened to the president?
He's not yet 60 and is trying to find work. I shared as we talked in a nearby diner, not the usual cafe. In front of us were several children. I managed several eateries and had bought a failing diner to run a children's meal service. And today's my once-a-week day to cook up and serve stew. Sarah was helping out.
Wasn't it Kevin who inspired you to start this children's diner?
Yeah, you remember well, don't you? Indeed, Kevin was the catalyst for starting this children's diner. When I lost my parents, the support from those around me meant I never struggled for a meal. That's partly why I was shocked, seeing him suffer from hunger right in front of me, realizing some kids don't get enough to eat. That was when I realized how fortunate I was. Kevin and the kids here might have different circumstances, but seeing him hungry made me want to feed him, leading me to start the diner. The fact that children Alice's age were suffering so much shocked me. About George, I've called him to help out this time.
Could it be?
Sarah's gaze followed to George, surrounded and puzzled by the children. He probably never really parented before. Unsure how to interact with them, he forced sacrifices on Kevin before. First, I wanted him to see the reality of kids who can barely eat. George had lived as a banker, reaching the position of bank president, but that narrowed his perspective. I invited him for unpaid help to learn.
That's so like you, Mike.
Which I pretended not to hear, stirring the stew. This stew, taught by my mother, is popular with the kids.
Hey Mike, I've come to help,
announced Alice as the stew was ready. She was followed by Kevin, both surprised to see George surrounded by children. All right, the stew's ready, let's serve it. Sarah and Alice nodded, smiling. Even Kevin and George, still bewildered, began to help. Seeing them, I smiled too. Afterwards, my world changed significantly. Seeing the children full and happy seemed to make George reflect. Deciding he could live on his savings alone, he began volunteering actively. What I needed was to be more considerate of others, he said. Yet, he tried to stay away from Kevin, his biggest victim, considering it his way of making amends.
People around think I don't have a girlfriend because I'm quiet, but I've never stopped thinking about you.
Kevin confessed to Alice, saying so. Alice accepted, and now they're dating. Maybe it's time for me to move forward. Alice has grown independent from me. I mused, watching Sarah work happily. Years later, I decided to step back from active business management, leaving it to trustworthy subordinates, planning to live more leisurely. If you'd like, would you join me?
Yes, I'd love to.
I realized I wanted to spend my life with Sarah, so I invited her. Right now, we're living together in the countryside.
You and Sarah should get married?
Marriage isn't everything. Alice, who married Kevin and had adorable kids, looked at me incredulously, but I ain't about to rush into marriage. But still, Sarah remains someone special, and I plan to live for us both from now on.
We don't have accounts for shabby poor people.
When I went to the bank in tattered clothes, Jessica, a bank employee who seemed to have recently been assigned there, looked down upon me. She appeared to be an elite who had just started working at this bank, but perhaps she hadn't been informed about anything. I tried several times after that, but was turned away at the door. Realizing this was going nowhere, I decided to take another action. I'm canceling my corporate account with $600 million in it. As soon as I said that, Jane, a senior bank employee, was surprised and asked me why. Afterward, the newly bank employee Jessica lost everything. My name is Amelia, 35 years old. I'm currently working as a freelance engineer. I used to work for an IT company before I started freelancing, but I quit because I wanted to be independent. It was a struggle at first, but I managed to make ends meet and earn an income. There have been many hardships, but I have no regrets. I live in my home office and am very happy because I can work whenever and as much as I like. However, I recently experienced an unfortunate event. It was at a certain bank. That day, I needed to withdraw money from the bank. It was the end of the month, so I had to make various payments. I always feel intimidated when I visit the bank after a long time. The bank is quiet, which somehow makes me feel uneasy while waiting, but finally, it was my turn. "Excuse me, I'd like to withdraw some money." The person who assisted me was a flamboyantly dressed woman, unusual for a bank employee. Her makeup looked like it took a long time to apply, something I couldn't muster the effort to do daily, which intimidated me. She was the type of person I generally find difficult to deal with, so I wanted to finish up quickly and go home. But it didn't go as planned.
Withdraw money? Excuse me, but do you actually have an account with this bank?
What do you mean?
Well, I thought maybe you came to borrow money or something, because with that look, you know.
I wonder if the woman who looks at me seriously doesn't know the word rude. Glancing at her name tag, I saw it read Jessica. I denied Jessica's words and reiterated that I had come to withdraw money.
If you want to withdraw, you could use the ATM, you know.
Oh, no, it's just that.
Huh? I can hear what you're saying. Can you speak more clearly?
Jessica's condescending attitude made me feel very uncomfortable. I want to withdraw money.
Sorry, but it's a waste of my time dealing with you. I can hear what you're saying, so come back when you can speak more clearly, okay?
Her dismissive gesture was like she was shooing away a bug. My spirit was completely broken, and I silently got up from my seat. Being looked down upon without proper communication left me feeling unsettled, but I hoped a different person would assist me if I came on another day. I returned home feeling upset. Although I tried to get to work, I couldn't focus and ended up not getting much done. Another day, I revisited the bank, intending to withdraw money. About a week had passed since then. I had been putting it off because I was dreading going back. I thought there was no way I'd run into Jessica again so soon, so I decided to give it another shot. Unfortunately, as I sat waiting my turn, I ran into Jessica, who was on the floor.
Oh, you are back again. You never learn, do you? Just having someone as shabby looking as you around lowers the value of this bank.
Hello? I need to withdraw some money.
Withdrawing money, huh? How much are you planning to withdraw? It's probably just chump change, right?
Jessica treated me with the same dismissive attitude as before. I didn't need to tell her the amount, but feeling overwhelmed, I honestly answered, roughly $15,000.
$15,000? Why would someone like you need that kind of money? Don't tell me you're in debt or something. Or is it to pay off that debt? It's probably your parents' money. You know, it's pretty shameful to be so ungrateful to your parents.
Jessica made up a completely baseless image of me. I didn't want to bother denying it, but I also hated letting her comments go unchallenged, so I insisted it was my money. Still, she looked at me with doubt, making me wonder if it made any difference. Jessica said I look poor, but I'm not struggling with money. Do I really look that impoverished? I'm not fashionable, I don't have the kind of look of Jessica, and I wear light makeup. That makes me wonder if she thinks so. Talking to her really knocked my confidence. Just as I was thinking about leaving, my turn came up.
Amelia.
Oh, Jane, sorry, I'll come now. I said a word to Jessica, and I headed over to Jane. Jane is the senior bank employee who always handled my transactions. She has always been kind and courteous, never showing a bad attitude to anyone. I liked Jane because I could talk calmly. But to my surprise, Jessica said to Jane,
Jane, you don't have to bother with this person. She says she wants to withdraw $15,000, but who knows if she even has that much.
Jane's eyes widened in shock, and she scolded Jessica.
What kind of attitude is that? Jessica, I've told you before, treating our customers rudely affects the trust in our bank. Stop it.
Yeah, my apologies. I'll be going then.
Despite Jane's reprimand, Jessica left nonchalantly. Watching her leave, Jane sighed deeply.
I'm so sorry about that. She's new here, but we've had some issues with her. Apparently, she was considered an elite at her previous bank and was trusted, but...
Jane apologized with a troubled look. It seems Jessica really is a problematic person. I just had the bad luck of running into her.
It seems she's been decent to others, but she's taken a strange interest in you. I'll keep an eye out, so this doesn't spoil your mood further.
Thank you. I felt somewhat relieved by Jane's words. But then, an even more unpleasant event happened to me. However, it would lead to a significant change in circumstances.
Oh, what? You look a mess. Wait, aren't you Amelia? Back again, and dressed like that?
Jessica squinted at me. I must have looked bitter. I was up all night that day, and I came to the bank in my usual vintage clothes. I had managed to withdraw the money thanks to Jane before, but I was going to check the transfer this time. There was a little big deal. Yet again, Jessica stood in my way. And I haven't even entered the bank yet. I met Jessica in the bank's parking lot. I was tired from staying up all night, and I really didn't want to deal with someone as draining as Jessica today. But she didn't care about my situation and started bothering me anyway.
Coming here dressed like that, were you hoping to get some money handed out to you? It's just so shallow and annoying. Jane is too nice for her own good, letting poor people like you wander around our bank.
I'll be leaving soon today.
That doesn't matter. Customers will get suspicious and confused if someone as poor looking as you goes inside. So you should leave now.
She said this with a smug look on her face. I'm really just here to update my bank statement today. It was supposed to be a quick visit, but having Jessica around made me hesitant. Why does every visit to the bank have to involve such a hassle? It was just so depressing to think about. I'm only here to update my bank statement. Can I go now? As I tried to walk past Jessica, she turned around and said,
We don't have accounts for shabby poor people.
Hearing her words, I was thoroughly disgusted and decided it was pointless to engage with her any further. Understood. As I said this, Jessica started laughing triumphantly.
You're quite obedient, aren't you? You didn't have one in the first place. You are just bluffing and getting Jane to help you. You were actually here to borrow money, right? How embarrassing. An adult who can't even earn properly.
I thought to myself, let her say whatever she wants. It's useless talking to her. As I resigned myself to this thought, Jessica looked at me with a bored expression.
Why don't you say something back? Or is it too accurate for you to respond?
No, I just think it's a waste of time to say anything to you.
Oh, so, not being able to retort, just makes you even more pitiful.
Jessica's mocking attitude just made me feel worse. It was truly pathetic not to be able to say anything back. But I couldn't shake the feeling that anything I said would just be twisted against me. You seem to be under a misunderstanding, but I'm not the poor person you think I am. I've moved out of my parents' house and work properly as a freelance engineer. I've never felt miserable about myself. I'm satisfied with my life as it is.
What's that? An excuse? Poor people always have to put on airs to avoid feeling miserable, right?
I'm telling you, I'm not poor. Getting worked up, she just narrowed her eyes, looking pleased with herself. She must just enjoy belittling anyone she can. What a miserable person. I'd rather be poor than wealthy if it meant becoming someone like her.
I'm an elite, you know. I live a life of luxury. You can't even imagine. My parents are proud of me, and the bank trusts me. You're like the moon to my sun, you know. Aren't you jealous?
I don't feel any envy. You look more miserable to me. What are you going to be for showing off?
That's why you get treated like this. You're probably looked down on everywhere you go. Serves you right.
Jessica said loudly and burst into laughter.
One day, I'll be the head of this place. Then I'll be on top, making $600,000 a year. You wouldn't understand the value of that kind of money. But that's okay. It's an amount you'll never see in your lifetime.
Jessica had a provocative smile on her face. All I could think was what an ambitious person she was. Jessica then went back into the bank. She probably felt satisfied after saying everything she wanted. In contrast, I was left feeling nauseated by the encounter. I wondered if there was any way to get back at her and shouted, "I'm canceling my corporate account with $600 million. I've decided now. I can't trust a bank that employs people like you." Jessica was stunned at first, but after a few seconds, she laughed and confidently asked, "What kind of joke is that?" That's the last time she'll be laughing about it. My irritation with Jessica had turned into sheer disbelief. How can someone be so demeaning? What kind of life must one lead to end up like that? I left without offering any further explanation. I had decided that I could no longer trust this bank. I took immediate next action.
What in the world is this about?
The next day, I received a call on my cell phone from a number I didn't recognize. I answered the phone suspiciously. To my surprise, it was Jessica on the other end. Her voice sounded panicked. She was trying to explain something, but clearly struggled to find the right words. When I asked how she got my number, she admitted to looking up my personal information and calling me without permission. Is that even allowed? I asked her what was so important that she had to go to such lengths. After a pause, she began her clumsy explanation.
I had no idea you had a $600 million account.
That was the only thing she said clearly. Wondering what that had to do with anything, I asked for details. Jessica then described in detail what had happened at the bank the day before. Apparently, she was reprimanded severely by Jane after our encounter. She was lectured about her behavior towards me and told that such actions were not acceptable on a moral level. Initially, Jessica didn't take it seriously. She thought it was only natural to treat someone who looked poor like me with disdain, believing that respect should be earned through appropriate appearance and behavior. However, Jane sternly informed her,
You seem to be under a misunderstanding. She may say she's a freelance engineer, but she holds a $600 million corporate account.
What? Really?
I wouldn't lie. You judge people too much by their appearance. And to think you weren't aware of such a major client. Are you really an elite? Because of your reckless behavior, Amelia is planning to terminate her account, causing us significant damage. How do you plan to take responsibility?
Jessica was reportedly flustered by Jane's harsh scolding. She worried about a blemish on her record. She pleaded for a chance to win back the contract, promising not to repeat her mistake.
That's why I'm asking for your help, reconsidering the cancellation of the contract. Please, I won't be rude again.
I felt exasperated by her selfish request. Why should I help her after being treated so poorly every time? Even if you say that now, I have no obligation to help you. I'll be contracting with another bank, so you should just accept the consequences of your actions. When I responded, Jessica cursed me as terrible and the worst, but she was the one at fault. From our first meeting, she judged and belittled me, repeatedly hurling insults. It's only natural I'd want nothing more to do with her. As I was about to hang up, Jessica begged me to come to the bank one last time to resolve things. I decided to go to the bank to settle the matter with her. Instead of remaining in a bad mood, I wanted to talk to her and put an end to this matter. I thought it would be necessary to sort out my feelings.
Thank you. I apologize for my previous rude behavior.
Upon seeing me at the bank, Jessica quickly approached and led me to a seat. Her demeanor had changed. She was now overly submissive, which honestly didn't sit well with me. I'm here solely to settle things. My decision to cancel the contract remains unchanged. I immediately made my stance clear to Jessica. She then began to profusely apologize, sweating profusely. However, her apologies didn't sound genuinely remorseful. It seemed she didn't truly understand what she was apologizing for. It looks like she's just apologizing to me to protect herself. Sensing Jessica's insincerity, I couldn't help but feel bitter.
I am really sorry. If you reconsider the contract, I'll prioritize you over other customers and immediately share any beneficial information. Of course, setting up your account again will be swift and hassle-free.
No, that won't be necessary. Your apologies don't seem heartfelt. If you were truly remorseful, you'd understand why things turned out this way, right? And yet, you still think you can persuade me to stay? At my words, Jessica could only groan softly. I intended to show that nothing she said could change my mind, but Jessica still made excuses and refused to admit her fault. She rather defiantly starts talking about my fault after all.
If Amelia had dressed more appropriately, nothing would have happened. How about paying more attention to your appearance? It's quite rude to come out in public dressed like that.
While I understood what Jessica was trying to say, there was no justification for her words. Criticizing someone just because they wear old or inexpensive clothes is rude on Jessica's part. After all, not everyone at the bank dresses in brand name attire. Everyone wears similar clothes and quietly waits for their turn to complete their transactions. Jessica probably targeted me because she perceived me as weak. I've always been passive and not good at talking back, but that's no reason to look down on someone. Besides, it's not as if I had caused Jessica any trouble to deserve such treatment.
Just because you teased me a bit doesn't mean you have to go this far. You're harassing me because you want to drag me down, right?
No, that's not it. I can't stand your unreasonable behavior. It's unbearable to be harassed by you whenever I come to the bank. That's why I decided to switch banks. You have no right to criticize me.
You should have said that from the beginning. I wouldn't have behaved like this if I had known about the account with a lot of money.
Jessica became too desperate, digging her own grave. Her loud complaints caused a stir among the people around us. Someone must have reported Jessica and me to the bank staff because Jane and a security guard came rushing over to us.
Jessica, what on earth are you doing?
Jane, I was just trying to get Amelia to reconsider, that's all.
Her gaze wandered as Jane approached. Jane looked at her attitude and glared at her as if she had guessed that the conversation was not peaceful.
Enough. What were you really saying? Don't tell me you were mocking Amelia again. Calling someone out to belittle them is beyond rude. And you're supposed to be an elite recognized by headquarters.
Jane yelled at Jessica in an unusual emotional way. According to Jane, Jessica's behavior was inexcusable for a supervisor. Touched by Jane's anger, Jessica's face contorted in fear, probably never having been seriously yelled at before. She has lost her nerve. Jane sharply warned her.
If you continue causing a scene, I'll have the security guard escort you out. Your behavior will be reported to headquarters for further action. With someone like you around, the bank's reputation will surely suffer, forcing headquarters to act.
But I've been working hard to become the head of this bank. If you do this, it'll tarnish my career.
If someone like you becomes the head, the bank will surely go under. Start taking responsibility for your actions and think about your situation.
Jessica looked at me half in tears when Jane told her so.
Amelia, say something. Because of you, my life is ruined.
Jessica glared at me, wiping away tears. She is helpless to blame people to the end. This is the result of your own actions. Why don't you accept and reflect on that? I told her coldly and headed for the bank's exit. Jessica desperately tried to stop me, but fearing she might cause harm, the security guard restrained her and took her away. Such a nuisance. Wanting to avoid further trouble, I quickly got into my car and drove to another bank. I'll open a new corporate account and get my mind back on track. I was thinking about that while driving. Later, I heard from Jane that Jessica was fired in a meeting at headquarters. Apparently, her problematic behavior and tendency to arrogantly claim credit for others' work had been exposed. Despite her resistance and attempts to avoid dismissal, her superficial lies convinced no one. After being ousted from the bank, Jessica, unable to forget her high-standard lifestyle, incurred debts to maintain appearances. However, her debt grew unmanageable, and she was unable to borrow from regular banks. Resorting to borrowing from dangerous sources, Jessica could no longer lead a peaceful life and reportedly fled in the night. Her current whereabouts are unknown. This story, which Jane shared with me, it's only a rumor, but I thought Jessica could do it. As for me, I continue working as a freelance engineer. After successfully completing a significant transaction that led to more opportunities, I've now achieved a stable income. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say I'm successful. The company has grown, and I'm no longer running it alone, but working alongside a few employees, sharing the workload. I am not haughty like Jessica, but I am living within my means,